There's a reason why the biggest names in the music industry agree to do the Super Bowl halftime show essentially completely free of charge. Monetarily, very little payment is given to the artist, but there is a huge benefit of doing it. Entertainers seek to tap into the massive audience that watches the game. Most artists attempt to rise out of the shadow of the legendary performance of the King of Pop back in 1993. But most of them end up being remembered as unimpressive and forgettable. While the Super Bowl halftime show has given fans some memorable performances, today we will take a look at 8 of the worst. Starting off the list, the Black Eyed Peas. Heading into Super Bowl 45, the Black Eyed Peas took the stage as headliners, and their actual voices pierced through the mics in a performance that visually looked great, but sounded like an experience you would find at a karaoke bar.
This beat go boom, boom, back to the future, Cybertron. Harder, faster, better, strong.
There were consistent audio issues throughout their performance, but this was far from the viewers' biggest issue with the show. On top of the audio issues, many critics ultimately saw the performance as uninspiring. Many believe that the Black Eyed Peas' catalog of hits did not translate well to a live setting. Slash, the famed guitarist from Guns N' Roses, rose through the smoky stage and played a solo with Fergie, awkwardly decided to be a walking meme, approaching Slash and dancing while singing at his side. Then, all of a sudden, Usher descends to the stage and attempts to save the show with a crew of dancers. They were probably the best part. He then jumps down a set of stairs to land the splits. I don't know about you, but I have not been able to do the splits in my whole life. But a poll from ESPN found that 35% of viewers graded the performance an F. Many still consider it the worst halftime performance that the NFL has ever put on. Up next is a show that led to a national controversy and faced hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fines. Janet Jackson got her chance in Super Bowl 38 to craft a thriller performance. She was joined by Justin Timberlake, Nelly, Diddy, and Kid Rock. The show's theme was centered around MTV's Choose or Lose campaign, a movement pushing young viewers to vote. This would go on to be the most provocatively controversial show in Super Bowl history, with the event that would draw global headlines occurring during a duet between Jackson and Timberlake of his song Rock Your Body. After Timberlake delivered his last lyrical line, he pulled a piece of Jackson's costume off. However, he ended up exposing her breast instead. This situation got labeled Nipplegate and is attributed with being the reason why wardrobe malfunction is in the dictionary. Janet Jackson, CBS, and MTV immediately apologized for the incident. Parents were enraged and upset that their children and families were exposed to this when, after all, the Super Bowl is supposed to be a safe place for families to watch. CBS was fined $550,000 by the Federal Communications Commission. The NFL stopped working alongside MTV for the halftime shows, and Janet Jackson had her music blacklisted on many radio stations and music channels around the world. Many looked to this event as the beginning of the end of her then promising career. When speaking about the incident, she was quoted as saying, "It's truly embarrassing for me to know that 90 million people saw my breast and then to see it blown up on the internet the size of a computer screen, but there are much worse things in the world, and for this to be such a focus, I don't understand." This was far from the only controversy that came from her halftime show. Some filed complaints due to the outfits of the backup dancers. Also, during Kid Rock's performance, he wore a poncho made from an American flag. This drew criticism from U.S. Senator Zell Miller, who said, "The thing that yanked my chain the hardest was seeing this ignoramus with his pointed head stuck up through the hole he had cut in the flag of the United States, yelling about having a bottle of scotch and watching lots of crotch. This is the same flag we pledge allegiance to, the same flag that is draped over the coffins of dead, young, uniformed warriors killed while protecting Kid Rock's bony butt." As you see, the show was extremely problematic. Truly a terrible NFL embarrassment. But are we the only ones wondering why Janet Jackson's career alone went downhill? How was Justin Timberlake not marked and cast away? After all, he was the one who ripped the shirt. For Super Bowl 25, the NFL gave the stage to Disney to produce the halftime show. The performance was all right, considering most of the performers were children. Donnie Wahlberg and his New Kids on the Block were chosen to be the headlining act, and they were joined by Houston Oilers quarterback Warren Moon and a children's choir. In an attempt to fit the theme of the show, the New Kids on the Block were forced to pass over some of their well-known songs and instead perform more of their sappier hits. Donnie wasn't thrilled about this, but he was a good sport. While Mickey Mouse and the kids impressed with all their organizational choreography, viewers at home could not see it until the Super Bowl ended. Rather than broadcasting the performance, ABC instead chose to run an update report on the Gulf War. Donnie Wahlberg was quoted as saying, "Afterward, we found out it didn't air during the game. It had been preempted. George H. Bush made a speech. We all breathed a sigh of relief, and it felt appropriate. Felt more fitting that George Bush made a speech during halftime than this Small World Disney thing." Despite having a hodgepodge of big names in this next halftime show, it was evident that the lineup was thrown together at the last minute with no real theme. Around the time of Super Bowl 53, there was controversy surrounding Colin Kaepernick and his treatment by the NFL. As a result, many musical artists hesitated to take the halftime gig. Early in the selection process, the NFL approached Rihanna, Pink, and others, but they declined. Eventually, it was announced that Adam Levine and his band Maroon 5 would be headlining, joined by Big Boy and Travis Scott. But before Travis Scott agreed to perform, he stipulated that he would only perform if the NFL joined him in donating $500,000 to a charity supporting social justice. The backlash from peers in the music industry didn't persuade Maroon 5 or Scott. Rapper and businessman Jay-Z did not like that Travis agreed to perform at the show. There was further noise and a tease of a possible SpongeBob SquarePants appearance due to the passing of Steven Hillenburg earlier in the year, the creator of SpongeBob. An online petition went viral amongst fans urging the NFL to pay tribute to Hillenburg in the halftime show. Despite all of the chaos and last-minute additions that went into putting the show together, this would go down as one of the worst shows because it could have been so much better. SpongeBob fans were cheated of sweet victory, and so many local musical artists in Atlanta could have put on a more memorable show than a shirtless Adam Levine. The NFL was criticized for not getting any Atlanta natives such as T.I., Future, Childish Gambino, Migos, 2 Chainz, Gucci Mane, Young Thug, or even 21 Savage. But I gotta say, Travis Scott did make the show better and fun despite being second fiddle. Disney earned another spot on the list with their efforts to advertise a new ride at their park.
Bring to me the trophy.
However, if you watch through the event, the conclusion is rather corny. Indy and Marion's objective was to keep the Lombardi Trophy away from the jungle-dressed villains. Patti LaBelle made a stunning appearance, while Tony Bennett attempted to sing live.
This is so exciting.
Disney received a lot of attention that fed interest in their new park ride, the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, which lasted for many years. For the Times, this act set a precedent for future shows to top, but 2 years later, disaster struck. The Blues Brothers attempted to build off the hype from the Indiana Jones show and Diana Ross show, but one of their stunt performers, Laura Dinky Patterson, died in a circus aerial bungee jump rehearsal a few nights before the Super Bowl, a complete devastation that caused many changes for future halftime shows. Cowgirl Dolly Parton. Now, this wasn't the Super Bowl, but the Dallas Cowboys thought they were on their way in 2023. Jerry Jones wanted his own halftime show, so the Cowboys brought in Dolly. The way she looked in a cheerleader uniform for being born in 1946 was shockingly scary. Many of us, besides Jerry, were cringingly looking away from the show and couldn't wait for the game to start again. Back to Super Bowls. Tom Petty, Super Bowl 42 in 2008. There was nothing fancy about this show. It was just some of Tom's big classical hits and an audience that sang along. Sort of uninspiring, to say the least. Super Bowl 49 in 2015. Katy Perry's show peaked at 118 million viewers and has been one of the most watched halftime shows of all time. A lot of attention is paid to the left shark and how out of sync it was choreographically. But can we forgive the shark? After all, it's just a fish out of water. We tried to get most of the biggest fails on this video, but who did we miss? And how would you rank the worst of the shows? The overall lesson here is to keep Disney and Justin Timberlake away from the Super Bowl, and performers, please keep your clothes on. Thank you for watching our very own halftime show.